What if one of the greatest mistakes we've ever made is believing that education and schooling are the same thing? Most of us use the words interchangeably. We say someone is educated because they finish school. We measure progress by enrollment numbers, graduation rates, and degrees. But what if schooling is only one possible path to education and not always the best one? Welcome to Education, Power, and Social Change. I am your host, Dr. CHewachong. In today's episode, we're going to draw a line, a clear, uncomfortable line between education on the one hand and schooling on the other hand. We are then going to explore what we lose when we pretend that these two are identical. Let's start with definitions because language matters. Schooling is a system. It's structured, standardized, and time-bound. It has schedules, grades, curricula, exams, and credentials. Schooling asks, can you follow instructions? Can you meet requirements? Can you perform on demand? Education, on the other hand, is a process. It's lifelong, it's relational, it's about understanding, about judgment, about growth, and about meaning. Education asks, can you think critically? Can you adapt? Can you make sense of the world and your place in it? You can have schooling without education, just like you can have education without schooling. But we rarely talk about that. So, how did we get here? How did schooling come to stand in for education? Historically, schooling was never meant to be education. It was meant to organize learning at scale. But as societies industrialized, they needed literate workers, predictable skills, social order. Then school became efficient, standardized, measurable. Over time, something subtle happened. We stopped asking, are people learning? And started asking, are people completing school? Credentials became proof of education, not understanding, not wisdom, not capability. And once that happened, the confusion was complete. Here's the problem. When schooling replaces education in our imaginations, we start designing systems that optimize for appearance, not substance. Students, on the other hand, simply learn to memorize instead of understand. They learn to perform instead of exploring. They learn to avoid mistakes instead of learning from them. Teachers, on their part, are pressured to cover content instead of cultivating insight, to teach to test instead of teaching to minds. Institutions, on their part, are celebrating graduation numbers, rankings, compliance. Meanwhile, curiosity keeps declining. Confidence is eroding. Learning is simply becoming transactional. The results: we produce graduates who are certified but unsure, qualified but unprepared for complex tasks. And then we ask, why isn't education working? The real world consequences of mixing these two and taking schooling for education is obvious. Look around. Employers say graduates lack critical thinking. Citizens struggle to evaluate basic information. And people fear changing careers because learning feels fragile. This isn't a failure of individuals. It's a failure of equating schooling with education. When learning is reduced to a checklist, people stop seeing themselves as capable learners outside institutions. Education simply becomes something you receive and not something that you practice. That mindset is costly. It is costly in innovation, it is costly in democracy, and it is costly in human dignity. So, how do we reclaim education? What exactly do we do now? First, we tell the truth. Schooling is a tool, not a synonym for education, not a guarantee of learning. Education must be reclaimed as, first, a human process, second, a social responsibility, and thirdly, a lifelong practice. When we separate the two, new questions emerge. What does meaningful learning look like? How do we design systems that serve humans, not just metrics? Who gets to decide what counts as knowledge? Those are the questions this series exists to explore. If this conversation resonated with you, share it. If it unsettled you, sit with it. In the next episode, we will ask what school was actually built to do and why it no longer works. And until next time, keep questioning what you've been taught. I'm your host, Dr. C, signing out.